So now we will see fetch API in JavaScript. So guys, basically the fetch API provides a JavaScript interface in order to make the HTTP request and the processing of the responses. So guys, this we are going to check with the help of examples as well. We will see how we can call the API or the URL using the fetch API and get the responses as well. So basically this fetch API is responsible in order to make those HTTP requests, which means calling of the API or the URL and processing of the responses that is going to come from the server. So guys, basically this fetch is the modern replacement of the XML HTTP request. So in the older versions of the JavaScript, we used the XML HTTP request, but now in the modern JavaScript we use the fetch API since it is more easy to use and more readable as well. Now unlike XML HTTP request, which uses callbacks, fetch is promise based over here and it is integrated with the features of the modern web in this case. So guys, basically all the latest browsers support the fetch API in order to get the responses from the API or the URL. So guys, we are going to understand the API example by using the random user generator API, and this is the API over here. So guys, let me just copy this API and let us move to VS Code in this case in order to understand the example using the fetch API. So let me just create a new file over here. So as you can see, we have created the fetch.js file in this case. Now guys, what we will do is simply we can use the fetch API over here. As you can see, this is the method that we can use, which is going to take one parameter, that will be the URL in this case. So guys, over here, let me just provide the open and close parenthesis, and then over here we have to provide the input, that is the URL. So inside the single or the double quotes, you can simply provide the API that we are going to call. So in this case, we are going to use this particular API. This link I have given in the description section as well, so that you can practice on your own. So guys, basically this is the way we can use the fetch method in order to call the API. Now guys, in return we are going to get certain response. So what we will do is, let us say we store that response in a specific variable, that is response in this case, and then simply let me just provide the console.log statement and let us see what will be the output when we try to print this particular response. Let me just save this file now and try running this code on the terminal by using the node command followed by the name of the JavaScript file. So as you can see, we are getting a promise in return. So guys, basically we are not getting the actual data from this particular API. Let us see what is the response of this API at least. So over here on the Chrome browser, we can hit this particular API and you will be able to see certain JSON response. So as you can see, we have got certain response over here. Let me just provide this pretty print in this case so that we can see all the labels properly. So this is the JSON response that we are getting for a specific random user that is getting generated over here. So guys, we should be able to get such kind of response in a JavaScript code, but we are not getting right now. We are simply getting the promise over here as the return. So let us run this code once again over here. So once again we are getting the promise that is pending in this case. So guys, it is very important to note that we have to wait for this particular line of code in order to execute. So currently what is happening is, since JavaScript supports asynchronous programming, which means the JavaScript interpreter executes this line of code and without waiting for the response from the fetch method, it is going to the next line of code to be executed. Now guys, we don't have the actual response inside this particular variable, and that is why we are getting the promise, since fetch is returning us the promise that it needs some time in order to get the data from the server and return it to this particular variable. So guys, in this case we have to provide the await keyword over here before providing the fetch method. Now guys, when we use the await keyword, we have to use this keyword only within the async function. So guys, over here we need to define the function which is going to have the prefix that is async in this case, and then we provide the function keyword followed by the name of the function. So let us say we provide get data over here. Now guys, inside this particular function we are going to call the fetch method in this case. So as you can see, this is the way that we have to call the fetch method, that is with the prefix await, so that we make the JavaScript interpreter wait for this line of code to be executed and then only move to the next line of code so that we get the proper response over here, and we can achieve this by using the async function over here. Now guys, let me just save this file now and let us see what will be the output now. So when we run this code once again, as you can see, we have not got any output. That's because we are not calling this function, we have just defined it. So over here we call this function by using the function name, that is get data, followed by open and close parenthesis. So guys, over here let me just save this file now and try running this code once again over here on the terminal. So as you can see, it is waiting for the response now, and then we are getting certain response over here instead of getting the simple promise. So as you can see, we are getting the response in the form of status over here, which is 200, which is the success status, and we are getting the status text as OK, which means the promise has returned us the resolved status over here, and we are getting the success status in this case. Now guys, in order to read the data that is from the API, which is the JSON data over here, we need to convert this response into a JSON response. So over here we provide dot followed by JSON in this case, and then open and close parenthesis. Simply, instead of providing it inside the console.log statement, let us use another variable, that is data over here, so that the JSON data can be stored inside this data variable. And then once again we are going to provide the console.log statement, and then we will provide this data, which is going to have the JSON data over here. Let me just save this file now and try running this code once again over here on the terminal. So as you can see, now we should be getting the output. So again we are getting another response, and the status is pending now. So guys, now what is happening is we are waiting for this response, which is actually getting us the response over here that we have seen previously. But while converting this response into the JSON format, again it is taking some time over here in order to convert the response into the JSON response over here and store it into this data variable. So guys, once again the interpreter is not waiting for that conversion time, and again it is going to the next line of code over here. So simply we have to once again provide the await keyword while we are converting the data to the JSON data in this case. So guys, basically this await keyword is very important in order to make the JavaScript interpreter wait for the line of code to execute and also wait for the response, so that it can store the response to the left hand side, that is the variable over here, which can be used for further processing based on the requirements. So guys, now we have provided the await over here for the response.json as well. Let me just save this file now and try running this code once again over here on the terminal. Now we should be able to get certain response in the form of the API. So as you can see, we are getting the results over here, and then we are getting the labels, that is gender, then we have name, location, email ID, and so on. So basically whatever data that we are getting on the browser while hitting the API, we are getting the same data over here as well on the terminal while executing the JavaScript code. So guys, let us say we want to display the name over here, that is the first name and the last name over here. Apart from this, we also want to provide the prefix, that is title. So guys, how do we read this? So in order to read certain complex JSON format over here, as you can see, we have this particular JSON object inside which we have the field, that is results over here, which is the array object over here. And then inside this array we have the name JSON object once again, which is having the title, first name, and the last name as the fields. So guys, we can use one of the JSON formatters online in this case. So as you can see, when we search for JSON formatter, we can see that jsonformatter.org is one of the important websites in order to understand the complex JSON data structure. So guys, over here let me just copy the entire JSON over here. Not only the JSON formatter, but you can use any other online formatter based on your preference. So guys, over here let me just open this particular JSON formatter in this case. So this is the JSON formatter that will get open, and then guys, you have to copy this JSON data on the left hand side over here. So as you can see, once we copy on the left hand side, you can see the response that is coming on the right hand side as well. And then over here we have multiple options. As you can see, currently by default the code option is getting selected, and then you can change it to either form as well or the text as well. So we are going to use the tree data structure in this case. So guys, basically this is the main object over here, that is the JSON object. It is having two children, that is the results and the info as well. What we are interested in is the results over here. So we are going to expand this results in this case, and then we are having the 0th index over here, since it is having the open and close square brackets, as you can see, which means it is a JSON array inside this particular main JSON object over here. So guys, inside the JSON array we have the different other JSON objects as well. So the way in order to access this particular title, first name and the last name inside the name is, first of all we have got the entire data over here in our code. So what we can do is this particular data followed by we have to use dot, and then we have to make use of the results array name over here. So simply we provide results in this case, and since it is the array, we have to make use of the open and close square brackets over here. So we provide the 0th index because this is the index that is provided over here. After this we have the JSON object. So once again we provide dot followed by name over here, and then inside this we have title, first and then last. So guys, first of all we provide dot, and then we will provide title in this case, and then followed by first and the last name as well. So let us simply see whether the output, that is title, is getting printed over here when we run this code. So let me just save this file now and try running this code once again over here on the terminal. So as you can see, it is processing the data now. So as you can see, we are getting Mr. over here, which is the title of the random user that is getting generated in this case. So guys, over here simply we have got the result of this particular title field in this case. Similarly, we will get the results for the first and the last name labels over here. So guys, what we will do is simply we are going to make use of the string concatenation, in which case we are going to provide the space characters, and then over here we need to provide the first and the last as well. So in this case, instead of title we will have the first label, and then after this once again we will have the space character, and then in the end we will have the last field label over here, so that we are combining all the data, that is title, first name and the last name of the random user that is getting generated. So guys, let me just save this file now and try running this code once again over here on the terminal. So as you can see, we are getting title and then followed by first name and the last name of the user. So guys, once again when we run this code, so we are going to get a different user this time, since every time the API is getting called, we are going to get the random user that is getting generated along with the other details which we are not reading right now. So guys, in this way simply you can use the fetch method in order to get the response from a specific API based on your project requirements, and we can also use the await and the async keywords in order to wait for these lines of code to be executed before we can access them, in order to get the proper data instead of getting the promise on the terminal. So guys, comment in the comment section below whether you have learned something out of this video. Please make sure that you like this video so that it reaches to more people, and subscribe to this channel so that you get the notifications on upcoming videos as well. I'll see you in the next video, in which we are going to talk about reading the JSON data using fetch API in JavaScript, in which we are going to read other field labels as well as far as this particular API is concerned. So stay tuned.